Hi, and welcome to Stabbin in the Cabin. I'm Dominic. I designed and illustrated this game, and these are the rules of how to play it. I find the easiest way for these rules is just to show you an example of play. So I've set this board up for 5 players. So the theme of this game is that it's kind of like a 70s slasher movie. So you're a bunch of teenagers who have gone to a cabin in the woods, and one of you secretly is trying to murder everyone. So they'll be the secret stabber. And the aim of the game is that the secret stabber is trying to kill at least half of the innocent teenagers, and the innocent teenagers are trying to find and kill the secret stabber before they manage to do that. So I've set this game up for 5 players. So the secret stabber wins if they manage to kill 2 or more of the innocent teenagers. Otherwise, the innocent teenagers win. So there's the same number of rooms as there are players. For more players, these are the default suggested layouts, but you can choose your own layouts if you want to. The important thing with the layouts is just to know what's adjacent, what is next to each other. So in this game, you'll all be in separate rooms, and when someone is able to do a stabbing, they can only stab someone who's in a neighbouring room. So here, yellow can stab white, but yellow can't stab green or anyone else. So rooms are next to each other if they're connected by a straight edge. You can lay out the rooms like this, and then yellow can stab green because there's a straight edge. So placing the rooms halfway is allowed. But for this first game, I'm just going to put them like this. So we've got kind of a corner room here. Okay. So you get 10 rooms in the box, and they're all exactly the same. So you can just build the cabin of your dreams. Here we've got a garage, living room, kitchen, bathroom, and a bedroom. Seems appropriate. So each player picks what teenager they want to play and picks the counter that matches the colour. And you can role play those teenagers if you want. It can be helpful. This is a game of being sneaky, so if you can come up with reasons that your character would do things, that can be helpful. And then we need to determine who is the secret stabber. So we take the secret stabber card and 4 innocent cards, so there's 5 in total, same as the number of players. And what we do is we shuffle those cards, and we're going to give 1 card to each player, and it's important that you keep it secret what role each person has. So the band camper is the secret stabber, so we'll place that underneath there. It's quite useful, and these are all innocents, obviously, so I'll just place the innocents under here. It's important you keep these secret, and it's nice to put them underneath, because when you die, you'll flip these over and the other players will be able to see whether you were an innocent or a secret stabber. And the final thing we need to do before we start playing is to work out who gets the knife token. So the way I do this is just to ask who was the last person to watch a horror film. So let's just say the jock watched It Follows on Tuesday. So the jock gets the knife token. Right, now we're ready to play. So the game takes place over 2 phases. The first phase is the night phase, where the secret stabber does their secret stabbing. And then we have the day phase, where we do a public stabbing in an attempt to kill the secret stabber. So we'll do the night phase first. Starting with the player who has the knife token, they can pick a room to go in. So we're all picking what rooms we're going to sleep in, and we all have to be in different rooms, because the first rule of horror films is everyone has to split up. So let's say the jock goes into the garage. Let's say we do something like this. Now remember, the band camper is the secret stabber. So they're here. And so for the secret stabbing in the night phase, what we do is when we've placed all of our pieces, everyone closes their eyes and counts down from 10 to 0 and then shouts, "Stabbin' in the cabin." So it'd be like this: 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, "Stabbin' in the cabin!" And then you open your eyes, and during that countdown, the secret stabber, the band camper, will pick one of these stab tokens, which are arrayed around the board, and stab someone that they can stab. So in this case, they can stab white or orange. So let's just say they stab orange. The reason that I've got all of these tokens placed around is so that everyone can reach them easily, because we don't know who the secret stabber is. And also, I've got clusters of them just so that you don't know where one's been picked from. So we want to try and hide this secret stabber as much as possible. It's good if the countdown takes 10, 15 seconds, something like that, enough time for someone to reach in, grab one and move it. And also, the reason why we're counting down is to make noise, to hide the secret stabber. And also, if you want, you can jostle about a bit as well to hide any kind of reaching out movements. You want to do as much as you can to hide the secret stabber. Okay, so that's the night phase over. We've opened our eyes. We've seen the secret stabber's done a secret stabbing. And now the accusations begin. Because we know that you can only stab in adjacent rooms, suspicion is now on blue, green, and yellow. But we don't know who it is yet. So now we move on to the day phase, where the innocent teenagers try and stab the secret stabber. So the way this works is, starting with the person with the knife token, they can choose to either stab someone who they're next to, or they can pass the knife to their left to give them a chance to stab someone. The reason we can pass it around is, in this case, the jock is in this corner, so he can only stab orange. But orange looks innocent because they've just been stabbed. So he might want to pass the knife to orange, to the skater. Now the skater can choose to stab someone, and the skater's got a lot more options. They could stab the jock, they could stab the stoner, or the band camper. Let's just say they're suspicious of the band camper. So to do a public stabbing, they just pick up a stab token, place it on the band camper. And then the band camper gets the knife, so they've had it stuck in them, so then the knife token goes to the band camper. And then the final thing we do is we all take off our pieces from the board, including our stab tokens. And then after that, we start a new night phase, starting with the player with the stab token, and we then pick rooms to put them back on the board. And that shuffles up where people are. And then we do another night phase where the secret stabber does a secret stabbing. And then we do another day phase where we do a public stabbing. And we just repeat those phases over and over and over again until people start dying and flipping over their cards. And the game ends when the secret stabber flips over their secret stabber card and we've managed to kill the secret stabber. So how do you kill someone? Well, it takes 2 stab tokens to kill someone. 1, 2. And then when they're dead, you lie them down. They flip over their roll, so you can see if they're innocent or the secret stabber. So when someone's died in a room, this becomes a corpse room, and the player can no longer take off their piece and put it back on at the end of the day phase. Also, the player can't hold on to the knife token, so if they're given it through the stab or pass in the day phase, they just have to pass it on. So you might think they're out of the game. They're not. So the player who's been killed gets to still chat. They become a ghost and they can still throw accusations and talk about who the secret stabber might be. But they also have to take part in the countdown as well, because if they find out who the secret stabber is before the end of the game, that would ruin the game. So you can still take part by chatting, but you can't take part by moving your pieces around. Now, if those were all of the rules, you'd be able to figure out who the secret stabber was quite quickly just through a process of elimination. So there's a few extra rules just to make things a little bit more interesting. So the first of these is, if the secret stabber is next to a corpse room, in the night phase, they can pretend they're in that corpse room to do their secret stabbing. So here, yellow can stab blue or green because yellow's next to a corpse room, and that's connected to those other squares. Likewise, if green was also a corpse room, yellow could now stab blue or orange. So the more corpses that mount up, the easier it is for the secret stabber to stab people all around the board. Also in the night phase, the secret stabber has got some special moves, which are these red cards. So the first one is, once per game, the secret stabber can stab anywhere on the board. So once per game, they don't need to be in an adjacent room. They can stab absolutely anywhere. The second special rule they have is, once per game, they can choose to not stab anybody. This can be useful if they know it's going to be very suspicious for them to stab that turn. So once per game, they can avoid stabbing anyone. And finally, once per game, they can stab themselves, which is a bit of a high-risk strategy because then they're half dead. but I've seen it work. So those are the 3 special rules. So in the night phase, the secret stabber can stab someone who's in an adjacent room, or they can stab through a corpse room, or they can use one of these special moves. Now, the innocent teenagers have one special rule too. Because the innocent teenagers are not allowed to stab through corpse rooms because they're too freaked out to do that, what they can do is, instead of doing a public stabbing, they can use this special rule once per game, which is to swap places with a corpse room. Now, this is useful in situations like this, where the secret stabber's tucked away in a corner room, where they can stab people in the night phase, but no one can stab them in the day phase. That means in the day phase, instead of doing a public stabbing, you can activate that. Whoever's got the knife token, so say the jock's got it, he can activate this special rule once per game and just swap rooms with this corpse. And the last extra rule is to do with the day phase when we're doing stab or pass. If everyone decides to pass and the stab token goes back to the first person who had it, they have to do a stabbing. So you can't leave the day phase without someone getting stabbed. Unless, of course, you activate that special rule, which is the only time that you will leave the day phase without there being one public stabbing. Okay, those are all of the rules. If you have any questions that come up, put them in the comments and I'll answer them as soon as I see them. And thanks so much for buying my game. This is the first game I've ever made myself, and so I'm very excited for people to play it. Also, let me know what you think. There's a Discord as well, which I've put in the description. So if you're interested in talking about rules, modifications, and additions to this game, that's the place to go. All right, I've been Dominic. This is Stabbin in the Cabin. Enjoy.